Welcome to Dental All Stars. I'm Alex Nottingham, founder and CEO of All Star Dental Academy. And with me is Marty Fort, founder of Music Academy Success. He is a musician, small business owner, former professor, seminar speaker, and business coach. And our topic is the no BS direct marketing for dental practices. And I had to put the because it's that important. Please welcome Marty Fort.
Alex, how are you doing?
Good. It took me a while to truncate your resume. It is so impressive. And that's just the formality of it. You are my mastermind leader for the last decade. So for those that I talk about, I have a mastermind group at All Star Dental Academy. And I told you all the story about my mastermind pushing me to do mastermind, not just to help our business, but to do it for dentists. This guy is the guy that is behind all that. And I'm so grateful and so wonderful to have you. We have you on a couple of times a year when we can get you out of your busy schedule. So thank you for being here, Marty. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited about the book. And everybody will go to freedanbook.com. That's Dan as in Dan Kennedy, D-A-N, freedanbook.com. It's really cool. We'll talk about it more in the interview, but they get a free copy of the book.
Really?
It's
freedanbook.com. Just to make free, we know free.
Yep.
Dan, D-A-N, book.com. We'll put that also in the show notes. And so I'm very excited about the book and Dan Kennedy and you. And so first, kind of tell us a little bit about, even before the book, who are these players?
Yep.
Who is Dan Kennedy? And you're not going to say it, but you're the heir apparent of Dan Kennedy. You're been with him for a while and kind of helping to lead his campaign. So unpack this for those who are not familiar with Dan Kennedy and you and your book author.
Yep. Well, so Dan Kennedy has been a leader in coaching, consulting, copywriting, speaking. I believe this year is the 50th year, you know what I mean? And he's just mentored so many coaches like myself and business owners. So he's coached everybody from business coaches to consultants to people doing online sales, thousands of dentists, by the way, many of who would be known to you, people in the medical space, all kinds of space. But basically, Dan is mainly known through his books. That's how most people find him. This latest book has a couple of authors. The primary authors are myself, Darcy Juarez, who is the chief business strategist for Magnetic Marketing, and of course Dan Kennedy. But Dan has been a big mentor to me. So same as I've been able to help you get on the path to mastermind, I was in Dan's highest mastermind for 2 years, and so he really helped shape how I run my masterminds, which then flows down the tree to you and others, the ones that you're masterminding with and leading. So it's just it's been a great journey with him. I've been a private client of his for 16 years now. And he tapped me via Russell Brunson to be, kind of what they call the attractive character for Magnetic Marketing, which is we're doing their newsletters, events, all kinds of stuff. But the book's been really cool. I'm very proud of this book for a lot of reasons. One, because of the great content in it. It's been able to help tons of dentists and business owners. So even your friends and family that run businesses that are not dentists, they all should get a copy at freedanbook.com. But Alex, I got some news to update you on that. It's sold thousands of copies. When we did the launch, and this is very, very rare, it broke Amazon. And what I mean by that is it sold out in one day on Amazon. They couldn't even take any more orders. They had to reset everything. It made number one in legitimate categories like advertising, sales and marketing, and direct marketing. So those are hard categories to get number one. It's not like just being in gardening or something like that. But the book's just doing awesome. And I'm excited to be on the podcast with you today and help your dentists and your people to become better direct marketers and get their sales up, because I would assume what they want is more patients and more sales, help more people.
So this book, as I mentioned in the title, I talk about dental practices. This book is not specific to dental. It can work for any business.
Yeah.
It just so happens that Dan and Dan's influence has helped many dental practices. And just to repeat again, so true what you're saying, that Dan Kennedy, being the leader of the direct response community, of many of the great marketers, had been influenced by Dan Kennedy. He's like the godfather of that. And it's really amazing to be able to mastermind and workshop with people of that caliber, being you, being
Mhm.
working with him and so on. And so I really want people to pay attention when this kind of comes around. So what is this concept of direct response? What does that mean?
So, and you're going to help me with this in our conversation, because we're going to have, a chat. It's not going to be just a lecture. I'm not here just selling a bunch of stuff.
Okay,
I really am here,
professor.
huh?
Okay,
Well,
professor.
kind of,
Hmm.
but it's definitely focused on the book. And I would, so let's kind of dive in, and we'll go back and forth, and because I'm going to need
Okay.
a little of your help. But knowing what I know of dentists, and knowing what I know of having worked with you for a long time, being the coach and leader of dentists, is most of them. Well, first of all, they're trying to get sold advertising all the time.
That's
I
right.
even see it at my dentist locally. There's somebody coming by trying to sell them this, sell them that. And most of what they're trying to sell them, so this is my question, tell me if this is true, is they're trying to sell them brand advertising, a billboard, a TV commercial that they don't really know how that's going,
Right.
radio ads, could be direct mail, could be newspaper inserts, could be whatever. But they're really trying to focus on the obsession on building a brand. And Alex, do you think that what I just said, before I dive into the definition of direct response, is that what the docs are going through? Is that what your dentists are going through?
In terms of opportunities for marketing?
And as far as how they view it, that they open up the practice, they say, well, I must do the billboard because everybody else has got a billboard, and I should do the back of this
Oh,
magazine
well,
because everybody else is
yes.
doing it.
Dentists, like many industries, professionals, are the law of the herd, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are other people doing
Right.
is kind of where they'll tend to go. And that I just need more new patients.
Right.
So where we're at is our focus is on, as you know, call conversion, practice management, marketing. And what's really interesting is mass. I don't know if I mentioned that before. That wasn't even in the introduction, but oh yeah, I did say Music
Yeah.
Academy Success, mass.
Mm-hmm.
And so mass is one of the enterprises you do, one of the main enterprises that you do besides owning music studios.
Right.
But that is almost identical to All Star Dental Academy, but in the space of musicians.
Right.
And that's what you're saying to me is, Alex, come on, I can do mastermind for musicians. You can do it for dentists. And you were
Yeah.
right. I
Yeah.
have to stop arguing with you with that. You're right.
Yeah.
And so where I'm saying is, the musicians, maybe, they have more time in terms of like maybe thinking about marketing, but dentists they just want new patients. Right.
Right.
So the, and that's enough. Now, the other issue with in terms of marketing is if you do what everybody else does, you get what everybody else gets.
Right.
Okay. And so cookie cutter, yes, branding or whatever, but because the market is so saturated, we have to be able to stand out. And so that's what I look at what this book does and what you've been doing for decades.
Right.
Is a type of marketing. That's what I'm saying, direct response marketing.
Right.
Which in the name, response, getting them to do something, getting them to feel something.
Yep.
Is what this book is all about.
That's right.
In a sense.
Absolutely. So precisely. So we've identified they're getting hit up all the time by ad reps to buy this, buy that. We've identified they're copying everybody else. So as you alluded to, it becomes incestuous.
That's
and
right.
ineffective is the bigger problem. They're wasting money, and so we're going to dive into. I hope they get their pens out. You can always listen to the replay, but they're going to learn a tremendous amount from the book. And again, It's free.denbook.com.
Sure.
But where we begin with direct responses, as you said, and you said it pretty perfectly. The difference with direct responses, we're not concerned about branding. Now, branding is not bad. And of course, I know dentists, they're very visual. They have to be. They're fixing people's teeth. And, especially the cosmetic dentists, you've got all kinds of dentists that you serve. So the look is important, and I get that. And I'm sensitive to that. But it's, as you said, it's varying from, okay, you can have a brand that you're known for. And so like No BS, for example, is a brand, and that's what it's known for. But it uses, and this is what I want everybody to gain from today's podcast and gain going forward is to collect more leads, to get more sales, to get more patients, to fill your schedule, to fill your practice, go to practice 2, 3, 4, 5, commercial property, which the one thing we did leave out is I own 4 commercial properties.
Oh, another business. I don't know how you do it.
Well,
it's amazing. You're what they call a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about the mastermind. I go, you're nuts.
Yeah. Well, pretty much my wife said the same thing.
But it makes you happy and you're good at it. Normally I would say and dentists, listen to me, don't use Marty as an example. He is an unusual serial entrepreneur. But when you tend to do multiple things, the quality suffers. For you, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
You just have that mind and that drive with respect to that. So anywho.
Well, thank you for that, Alex, and I appreciate that. And it is what I do for sport. You know, it really is. I don't golf, I don't hunt, I don't, you know. So
Enterprising.
yeah.
So, and one of the areas that, like, for everybody who listened to the podcast, and I keep saying, and this is from my mentor, Tony Robbins, who you always want to know about, is the quote that I love that he talks about is model the best. What are the best doing? And it was interesting. The stuff it was wonderful. This year, I believe it was, I spoke as a keynote for your Success Academy.
Yep.
And I used similar model worked both in dentistry as it does in music. It's similar. What we teach, and this book is not music, it's not dental, but all these, and this is where dentists, it drives me nuts sometimes, but they're doing better with respect to it. Well, I'm a periodontist, right? Or I'm an endodontist, or I'm a general surgeon, or in your case, I'm a musician, or I'm this type of musician, or whatever. Or I have this studio. It doesn't matter. Fundamental business skills work all around. What Dana Kennedy has been teaching and doing, and what you've been teaching and doing for decades, works in every industry. And again, your kind of your bio, and I also know we talk about, you coach other people personally in multiple industries yourself.
That's right.
So okay. So tell me. So we say about direct response being, unpack a little bit more. So tell me about this book. What are some of the again, direct response being, just like it says, direct response. We're going to get people to act. Branding, and here's the thing. Unless you're above 5 million, I'm going to say more than that, 10 million in revenue. Like, let's say you're a DSO or you have many, many locations. Branding is not going to be a good use of your money. So this is like the Dan Kennedy stuff, and the stuff that you're teaching is like guerrilla warfare.
Right.
How do we get the most out of what we're doing? And so give me a little bit, because it's a no-brainer. You guys get this book. It's free. So dude, very simple, dentist. Marty Smart, book good, get free book. Okay. Freedamnbook.com. So give us a little bit of, in the book, some nuggets here, Professor.
Absolutely. So again, as to reiterate what Alex is saying, you know, it is about getting a direct result. When you're looking at a billboard, there's really no result at all.
Right.
Unless you are McDonald's.
Right.
As you said, Dan would agree with you that no business is different. We all like to think they're different. And we can communicate the different things that we do, but the fundamentals are the fundamentals.
That's right.
But direct response is, first of all, you have to understand, it doesn't matter what media source, any media source you're using, Facebook, Instagram, direct mail, TikTok, your website, whatever it is you're using, the media is irrelevant. The composition of your copy and following the rules of direct response. So I'm going to go and skip ahead here to chapter 2.
Okay.
And on page 25, he lists some rules. Okay, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to give some teasers because we've got limited time. But they definitely should check out the book and get their highlighters out and go through each rule and put this into their practice ASAP. But the first rule is there will always be an offer or offers. Now, most people say, "Well, Marty, no, look, we're not doing coupons, and that's not what we mean when we say offers." There's a lot of confusion over that. This is not about discounting price. And in all 7 of my companies, Alex, I'm the most expensive, and I don't discount price. I will put together bonuses that make sense to where I know the money math's going to work out, that if the patient comes on board, in my case, student or coaching client, that even though it's perceived, and this is the key, this is the magic trick, if it's perceived as a high value with the bonuses they're getting, whatever they are bonusing in, but they're still paying full price, then that will get them to act and give a direct response. And I hope everybody caught that. But there has to be an offer for something, you know. And so there's many different ways to make offers. It could be by bundling in some kind of treatment, bundling in some kind of product, bundling in something. But whatever makes financial sense, you can bundle it in, but without discounting the core product. All right. Now, going on to rule number 2, there will be a reason to respond right now. So that's what people are very meek about. Okay, well, let me ask you this. This would seem to me like if I took on a dentist as a client, a reason to me for people to get their teeth serviced now is the older they get, the more expensive it's going to become.
That makes sense.
Doesn't it?
Consequences.
Because the
Sure.
older that you and I get, I turned 50 on Sunday. The
Congratulations.
longer I delay treatment, the more painful the treatment's going to be. I should be jotting this down. The harder the treatment's going to be. Recovery time is going to be longer, and it's going to be more expensive. Now, to make sure I'm not talking out of turn, would you say in dentistry that's true?
Sure. Absolutely.
I just gave everybody a reason to respond right now.
Right.
The longer they wait, those 4 bad things are coming. You and I are both fathers. Well, self-esteem with children becoming teens and then young adults, and even into adults, and I'd say Alex seniors as well, as humans, self-esteem is important.
Of course.
So how we present ourselves physically. Well, we as parents want our kids to have the best clothes, go to the best schools, have the best childhood. Or we should.
Sure.
Well, their dental health is a huge part of that. So we can't just say we're too busy we need to make sure that we are taking care of our child's dental health, not only for the physical benefits, which we have to illustrate through the copy and the ad, but also the psychological. Okay. So there's another example of reasons to respond. The homework for your listeners is to take it the rest of the way. So I just gave you 2 good examples of reason to respond. One mainly for adults, one mainly for children. Because I know you got pediatric dentists and
That's right.
probably some denture clinics and all kinds of stuff. So because the other big thing about the book is, and I'll kind of pause on the rules for a second, is direct response is all about what Dan Kennedy calls the triangle. And the triangle is, and everybody should write this down, is using the right media with the right message to the right market.
Right.
For example, one of the biggest misconceptions out there, people say, well, people aren't using Facebook anymore. Well, that is absolutely just not true. Now, Alex, I will be able to admit that I use Facebook today, mainly for business, less personal, but I use Facebook all the time. I would assume you used Facebook today.
I'm not using it. My team is.
Well, okay. All right. But you're on it from time to time. But let's just say, let me put it this way. Statistically, if you look at somebody who's trying to get their message to adults, for example, well,
Right.
the adults are on Facebook. That's a statistical fact.
Sure.
So that's where that market is. They are not, Instagram will be under that. TikTok will be under that. If they are trying to reach teens and young adults,
More TikTok.
that
Yeah,
flips.
it flips.
They are on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook is the last place they want to go.
That's right.
Logically, because their parents are there. So they don't want to go there. They got moved out. Okay. But it's about composing the ad again with an offer, a reason to respond. Whatever media is going to get the message of whatever message they compose by following the rules in this book. And there's a lot more they should go through.
There's a line, I don't know if it's in this book, but Dan
Yeah.
Kennedy has said before that I love that kind of sums up direct marketing is, why should I work with you or just not do anything?
Right.
And everybody, it's not the other dentist that's a competition.
Mhm.
It's Disney World.
Mhm.
It's spending money on something else, because dentists, unless it's like an emergency, why do I need to go spend money?
Yep.
It's not necessarily typically fun, although All-Star makes it fun and exciting where you love going to the dentist. But typically it's not where you're going to go. And most offices that are not trained in any business, medical is worse, they don't want to be there, the team.
Right.
And it looks like it. So the old adage is pulling teeth, right?
Yep.
So it is. So it's much, people would, and finances are tight in this economy and many economies for people. And
Yep.
so why am I going to do that? And so that's where the copy and knowing your audience
Right.
so well is the stuff that you're teaching in this book and what you've been doing for a while.
Yep. Absolutely. So message market media, realize that the media itself is irrelevant. There's 2 other big things, like I said, because I know we're limited on time, that I want to make sure we hit before we go, which is the other part is, and you alluded to this earlier, is tracking. And what is talked about in the book is that you need to write this down. There shall always be measurement. And one of, Alex, the pinnacles of direct response marketing for dentists or any non-direct response marketing business is knowing how the ad is actually working. So putting
Mm,
out $1, getting $2 back.
that's right.
Putting out $1, getting $10 back. Now you are, I'm gonna throw it back your way, a brilliant mind. And from our first meeting, you may not remember this in St. Louis, first time I met you, I was, and still am very impressed with your ability to, if you guys don't know this about Alex, to program. Of course, you have people helping you now because you're busy. But at the time, your business was like mine was smaller. All of ours was, which was why we were together. And but you get this real, left brain, and you're real good with numbers and math and computers. But most docs are busy because they're getting to the practice at 7 a.m. They're seeing patients,
That's right.
patient, trying to grab a quick lunch. Okay, patients are gone. They're trying to do some paperwork, deal with insurance companies, taking messages from the family, trying to get home for dinner. They're exhausted, and then they rinse and repeat.
That's right.
So my biggest advice to be a direct response marketer is stop just giving the money to the ad agencies and hoping for the best, because the ad agencies are not going to tell you. They don't want to track. I'll tell you a funny story that's interesting in the book. Um, so years ago, I went to a radio station. I was taping a spot, and I was doing all the stuff we talk about in the book. There's an offer, and of course, there was also a deadline, which you have to have a deadline as well for whatever it is you're doing. There's got to be a reason to go now, not a reason to go someday when they get around to it. That's an important
That's right.
statement. There's got to be a reason on
Urgency, critical.
urgency,
Yeah.
absolutely building urgency. So at the end of the commercial, I said, contact, say you heard this station by this date, you heard it on this station. And I was surrounded by 3 ad reps, and they stopped the whole thing. And I said, what? They said, you can't say, did you say you heard it on the station? I said, well, I'm paying for this. I mean, I'm going to do it. And I fought tooth and nail, and they finally let me through. But see, they were just so livid that I was going to track the response and performance of the radio ad. So what I'm saying to all the dentists on the podcast today is they got to find a way through their staff, through whoever, to really track actual dollar results. Now, impressions are worthless.
Sure.
Ad reps love to show you them. Google loves to show you them. Facebook likes are worthless. What matters is what actually went through. I wouldn't say register, but you follow me through the practice.
I totally agree. They got to be some tangible measurement that. So what we do at All Star, it's going to be, okay, a book download or a webinar opt-in, even not even a sale. But for dental practice, you got to be, okay, how many phone calls registered? How many forms were submitted? And
Yep.
not spam calls, but real calls.
Right.
And then you can say, okay, this generated X. And then where we kind of work a lot with dentists is, how did you convert them? Let's
Right.
listen to the phone call. Let's record it. So tracking everything. I know you and Dan are big on measuring
Huge.
everything and making sure that you're keeping your marketing accountable, but also keeping your team accountable. Because as you know, with the story, Heather, she's very much like you, right?
Mm-hmm.
High integrity, but don't cross Marty and Heather.
No.
Okay. You guys are very generous until you do something naughty.
Yeah.
And so with my father's practice, we had tons of marketing, but they weren't converting until we had a rock star like Heather, superstar, on the phone, all star. And so that's important too. Everything's got to be measured and tracked. So yes, I totally agree.
So again, where we've been so far, amen to everything you said. One, it's making the shift from just branding to direct response.
That's
by
right.
going through this book and going through the other rules. I can't remember how many rules. I think there's 10. But go through each rule, highlight it, put it into action for your practice, and go through each rule to help you now execute and implement the right ad. Make sure there's an offer. Make sure it's the right media market message. We've already covered a lot. And make sure there's tracking. And the big thing we talk about is, in the industry and in the book is LCV, which is lifetime customer value.
Yes.
So if I go to Dr. Nottingham and over 40 years, because I love being your patient and your staff, and I'm not going anywhere. Well, Marty Ford is not worth $500 for a cleaning or treatment or whatever it is I did. Marty Ford is actually worth tens of thousands of dollars.
Totally true.
Because of the lifetime I've been there. So they got to put it down on their homework list. And they say, well, Marty, how do you figure that out? Well, they just got to get a pin out and start with some kind of ballpark. Just be easy on yourself, guys. Listen, I know you're working hard. Take the weekend, get some coffee, do whatever it is you do. But just got to start with some number that you suspect
yes,
your average patients are worth over the lifetime of their time with you.
I was having this conversation with the president of Omni Premier Marketing.
Okay.
He specializes in dental practices, great marketing company, good people. And he was talking with a client saying to me, what are you looking to spend to acquire a patient?
Right.
And they're like, I haven't thought of that. And they're like, $1, $2, so start somewhere.
Oof.
But I know but if you see what's going on, that LTV, lifetime value, whatever, is lifetime
LTV.
value is you then have an idea of what you can put into your marketing, what you can put into your team to make them better at converting. Because like you said, I believe at All Star, so we use a number, and I think you're actually funny when you said $500. That's not a bad place to start. $500 a first year value of a patient. That was a couple of years ago. The ADA was like around 4 something, so it's probably
Right.
500-600 now. If your specialty, it's more. But 10 years is $5,000 to $10,000 a patient. You're right on, Marty. And then that's not including them referring other people. So they can be worth $50,000 to $100,000. And that's right. And so you say, okay, let's say a patient's worth even $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what can I afford to spend on it? And that's just the person, forget even the referral.
Right.
You can potentially spend hundreds of dollars a client, and then you have your multiple because you have overhead expenses and so on. So these are conversations you have to have.
Absolutely.
To be able to do it. And if you want to look, put it this way, guys listening, if you want to be serious about running a business, a great place to start, get the book.
Yep.
Okay. Keep listening to the podcast. I mean, yes, what is this? Nepotism? Yes. My mastermind leader, he's phenomenal. So yes, listen to me, listen to Marty, get the book. Okay. Follow what's there. It's been around for, stop trying to recreate the wheel.
Right.
At the time of this recording, the market took a dip the other day per the recording, and it'll come back up. But there are tried and true things that you're never going to beat the market. You always want to be around there, and you let it go. You try to be too smart, or you don't pay attention, you're going to get your lunch handed to you.
Right.
So, or whatever they say, the expression. So the point is, use these principles, been around, they work. Know your LTV. Follow the marketing tactics in the book, right? And the way of thinking. It's not just marketing. What's great about direct response and what this book demonstrates and what you have been teaching, what we've been teaching, is think better. You got to be able to think better, and you really outthink, not because you're smarter, but you actually spent the time. That's why Marty keeps saying, write it down.
Yep.
If you don't write it down, you're not serious. Brian Tracy, one of my mentors, would say that is you have put in the time and thoughtfulness to give a hoot about what you do, about your patient. And that's a big thing with direct response. You and Dan talk a lot about who is your ideal client? What do they like? The reason you guys are so good at it, and I think All Star very well too, I don't want to toot our own horn, but you have to know your client. You got to know the patient. How are they feeling? What do they like? And make sure you tell the story in your copy to be able to act. Now, you will agree, this is some powerful stuff in this book.
Yep.
And Marty will be the first to say, you use this for good, not for evil. You don't use these tactics to manipulate. You could. That's not what you're trying to do.
Right.
You have a good product. You're a good person trying to help people. And that's what these tactics are looking to do. Don't use them for evil. Use them for good.
Yeah, right on. Right on. And as we wind down, I want to go over and make sure we hit this one point.
Sure.
So this is a big one. I'm sure you're going to have a lot to say on it with your work at All Star and your dentist. But one of the rules in the book, Alex, and this is going to resonate with a lot of your docs, is there will always be follow-up. Now, that seems pretty obvious to them. They know there should be follow-up. The lead comes in, and they weren't converted, and they turn over the staff, and staff, here's leads. But how many dentists listening to this right now have discovered after a staff member left, or just by finally getting around to it on a weekend, that there's hundreds of leads that are just collecting dust?
Absolutely.
And there's not one thing going on with them.
That's the killer of most businesses.
Yeah. So I hope everybody took a lot away from today's podcast, and they'll definitely take a tremendous amount away from this book, and it's free, freedanbook.com. But if they can just focus on, which I hope they focus on all of it, by the way, but if they just focused on one, Alex, and improved their follow-up through automation, through technology, through systems, through consistency, through enforcement. And I think really company culture and focus of just being the broken record of people always say, well, Marty, how do we get them to do what we want? Well, one, they either have to do it and we veer into the ruthless management thing, but I personally don't keep them around. But two, a lot of them are savable, and a lot of them are trainable. But only if we, as the owners of the business, whether it's the dentist, the coach, whether it's the director, whether it's the real estate owner, whatever it is, being the broken record, okay, that they know that 5 days a week, let's say it's you, for example, if Alex doesn't know the follow-up numbers, status, rates, conversion, everything, Alex is not going to be quiet about it. But that's all on Alex and Marty to be that leader from leading from the front and just constantly focusing them on, the LCV, the return on investment, the dissemination of the ads, the follow-up. Follow-up, there always has to be follow-up. And I don't blame them for thinking it's hard. It is hard because you're trying to get humans to do something. But even through automation and technology, there's a lot of cool tools out there.
There is.
But Alex, what do you think about follow-up and the importance and vitalness to be a true direct response marketer for the dentist you're
tremendous. And I know for my father's practice was difficult until Heather came in and I came in and took it over, but it's still, difficult to get everybody on the page. But you first have to recognize the importance of the issue. And so there is a lot of technology that can do it. And if you don't have autoresponders, if you don't have, and in dentistry, we have a lot of technology integrations that will connect with your practice management system and do that. And even at All-Star, we're very technologically advanced, but don't rely just on the automation. The human touch, especially now, because automation and AI are exploding, people still require the human touch. Mm-hmm. And so if you compare a smart automation with the human touch and giving a crap, caring, if you care, that comes across and you're light years of everybody else. So you just got to make sure you're doing it. And this has been something that, again, Dan and you have been preaching for decades, and it works for thousands and thousands and thousands of businesses across all the spectrum of the market. So let me ask you this. So it's it's freedanbook.com.
Yes.
And it's free for whoever goes. Yes. Now I'll ask you, of course, when we release this, everything's limited. What is the limitation? Because can I get this next year, or how many copies, Marty? You have been so kind, but how many do we have available for those who are going to go do that?
It's
this
available
is the
now.
Urgency piece.
Yeah.
There's always a limitation.
It's available now. The limitation is, if they go now, they'll be able to get one. They do got to pay the shipping and handling, which I think is $9. I don't know what it is. But the thing they're going to miss out on, what's so cool about that page, if they go to freedanbook.com, there's a lot of bonuses they get.
Okay, you lose the bonuses.
Which I love how you did that. Because this, we didn't put a lot of prep into this on purpose. We don't want it to be canned. We want this to be a casual, fresh, organic podcast. And that's vital for the success of it. But what you just did there so adeptly is close the loop on what I said at the start of the podcast.
You did.
We are bonusing in this stuff to drive the sales of the book, which is sold, again, thousands and thousands of copies. Number one, 3 different categories, strong categories. But the urgency, the reason to respond now is that they want the bonuses, then they want to go in and get there. And it's basically just different trainings, continuing trainings they can do, because they're just going to get so excited about direct response marketing. They're going to want more. And the bonuses are in there. And there's all kinds of cool stuff. There's a long list, and the page lays them all out. But those will not be there forever.
Okay.
And once that door is closed, it's closed.
All right. I'll make sure that I get this podcast scheduled early so that our dentists get to, because I know you're in the promotional launch, and usually in the promotional launches of the books, you get a lot of giveaways, but as that ends, then you take that away. And you're pretty I'm a lot easier going than you are. I'll keep things a little longer, but you're like, when the deadline's over, it's over. Like we'll have dentists say, oh, I wanted that strategy call with Alex. Is it still available? I've missed the deadline. Heather will let them go after a few days. You're like, no, sir. And I know you get on me for that. You get on Heather and I about.
I'm working on it.
I know we're a little nicer about that.
I'm working on it.
That is what it is. Marty Fort, the great Marty Fort. Thank you so much for being on the program. And again, that's freedan, DAN, book.com, freedanbook.com. And remember to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, We're all over social media. Get the episodes as they are released. Share with your friends. And until next time, go out there and be an all-star.